The showroom smelled like leather, polish, and money, an invisible fragrance that wrapped itself around people who belonged there and quietly pushed out those who didn't. Glass walls reflected rows of luxury cars sitting under perfect white lights, each one gleaming like it had never known dust or fingerprints. When Daniel Carter stepped inside, the automatic doors whispered shut behind him. He paused just long enough to straighten the collar of his worn brown jacket. It had been his winter coat for the past 8 years. The zipper stuck halfway unless you coaxed it gently, and one cuff was permanently frayed. His boots were clean but old, the leather creased from years of factory floors and construction sites. A bell chimed softly. No one rushed to greet him. 2 salesmen stood near a black sports coupe, laughing loudly. One of them glanced at Daniel, then leaned closer to the other and murmured something. They both smirked. Daniel pretended not to notice. He walked slowly between the cars, his eyes taking everything in. He wasn't here to browse, he had memorized the specifications months ago. Engine size, safety ratings, fuel efficiency, warranty terms. He knew them better than some of the staff. At the far end of the showroom sat the car. Pearl white, 4 doors, sleek but not flashy, the kind of car that didn't scream for attention but earned respect the moment you drove it. Perfect for a young woman starting her life, his daughter's life. Daniel stopped in front of it and smiled. She's going to love this, he whispered to himself. A voice broke the moment. Sir, are you lost? Daniel turned. The salesman who spoke was tall, clean cut, with hair slicked back so precisely it looked sculpted. His name tag read, Brian. His smile didn't reach his eyes. No, Daniel said calmly, I'm looking to buy this one. Brian blinked once, then chuckled. This model? He asked, glancing at the car as if seeing it for the first time. It's not cheap. Daniel nodded. I know. Brian crossed his arms. Maybe you'd be more comfortable starting over there. He pointed vaguely toward the back corner of the showroom, where the used cars sat like afterthoughts. I'm interested in this one, Daniel repeated. The second salesman, shorter and louder, wandered over. Everything okay here? He asked, already amused. Brian grinned. Our friend here wants the Aurora LX. The second salesman let out a low whistle. That's a bold choice. Daniel met his eyes. I'm buying it for my daughter's Christmas gift. The laughter came fast and unrestrained. Cash or? Brian asked, dragging out the word. Cash, Daniel replied. The laughter grew louder. Brian wiped an imaginary tear from his eye. Sir, with all due respect, that car costs more than most people make in a year. Daniel didn't flinch. I've been saving longer than a year. The shorter salesman leaned in. Look, man, we don't want to waste your time, or ours. Daniel felt the familiar tightening in his chest. The same feeling he'd had in school when teachers assumed he wouldn't amount to much, when bosses overlooked him for promotions, when people judged him before he ever spoke. But this time he didn't feel anger. He felt calm. Get me the paperwork, Daniel said. Please. Brian sighed dramatically. Fine, if it'll get you out of here. He walked away, shaking his head, muttering something about dreamers. Daniel waited. As he stood there, memories flooded back uninvited. He remembered Christmas 10 years ago, when his daughter, Lily, was 9 years old. He had wrapped a used bicycle with mismatched ribbons, praying she wouldn't notice the rust beneath the paint. She had hugged him like he'd given her the world. I love it, Dad, she'd said, her eyes shining. She never complained, never asked why her friends had more, never once made him feel small for what he couldn't give. Now she was 19, studying nursing, working part-time, still hugging him the same way. And this Christmas, he was giving her something more than a car. He was giving her proof. Brian returned with the paperwork, slapping it onto a desk. Here you go, let's see how far we get. Daniel took the pen. He filled out every line carefully. Name, address, phone number. He didn't rush, didn't hesitate. Brian watched, waiting for the moment something would go wrong. When Daniel finished, Brian glanced over the form. All right, let's talk payment. Daniel reached into his jacket. Brian's eyebrows rose. You don't need to. Daniel pulled out a folded envelope, thick and heavy. He placed it gently on the desk, counted. Daniel said. Brian laughed. Sir, this isn't how it counted. The showroom quieted. Something in Daniel's voice made Brian pause. He opened the envelope. The first stack of bills made his smile falter. The second stack erased it completely. Brian's face drained of color as he began counting. Slowly, carefully again, the shorter salesman leaned over. What is it? Brian didn't answer. He finished counting once, then again, exact amount, down to the last dollar. The envelope hit the desk with a soft thud. I'll get the manager, Brian said, suddenly stiff. The laughter was gone. The manager, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and professional grace, approached. She glanced at the envelope, then at Daniel. "Sir," she said politely, "we'll finalize everything right away." Brian stood frozen. As paperwork moved swiftly now, too swiftly, Daniel noticed how the tone had changed. Smiles were warmer, voices softer. Offers of coffee appeared out of nowhere. Daniel declined them all. When the keys were finally placed in his hand, the manager smiled. "Congratulations, your daughter is very lucky." Daniel smiled back. "I'm the lucky one." Brian didn't meet his eyes. As Daniel walked toward the exit, the shorter salesman cleared his throat. Sir." Daniel turned. "Enjoy the car." Daniel nodded. "I will." Christmas morning came quietly. Snow dusted the streets outside their small house. The heater hummed. The tree stood modest but proud in the corner, decorated with ornaments Lily had made as a child. Lily padded into the living room, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, Dad." "Merry Christmas," Daniel said, handing her a mug of cocoa. They exchanged gifts, books, gloves, a scarf she'd knitted herself. Then Daniel picked up one final envelope from the table. "This one's outside," he said. Lily frowned. "Outside." They stepped onto the porch. The car sat at the curb, ribbons stretched across the hood, snow sparkling like stars. Lily's mouth fell open. "Dad." Her voice trembled. "Is this for you?" Daniel said. She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. "You didn't have to, I wanted to," he said simply. She hugged him so tightly he could barely breathe. "I promise," she whispered, "I'll make you proud." Daniel held her close. "You already have." And somewhere across town, in a pristine showroom filled with polished floors and judging eyes, two salesmen would remember the day they laughed, until a quiet man paid cash.